Good evening. In our news tonight, the Niue Island Fishermen's Association have made a formal complaint regarding concerns with spearfishing at feds. Tuapa Ekalesia celebrates the ordination of a new village pastor. Local authorities were in training for proper management and disposal of chemicals. Tamkotonga's Marine Day attracted many fishermen and locals. Niue is starting to attract more tourists seeking adventure, which is good for the tourism industry, but there are a number of concerns that have been raised by locals. The Niue Island Fishermen's Association represents the interests of local fishermen and have been proactive in development of fisheries on the island. Last week, a formal complaint was lodged with the Fisheries Division regarding some concerns about spear fishermen.
Well, the concern at the moment is that we have a growing number of spear fishermen coming to the island to take advantage of our crystal clear waters when they're out deep sea free diving. The problem is that they are now encroaching on some of our traditional fishing grounds. And there's always an understanding between the Fisheries Department, Niue Tourism, that the inshore fads are reserved for local fishermen. The offshore fads, like the ones they've got off at Halingingie and the offshore fad off Namukuru. There's another one off Ta'alava now. Those fads can be used by the spear fishermen. We've alerted, of course, fisheries. We've laid official complaint that asking people not to do it or telling people not to do it doesn't seem to be working very well. But we will keep a watching brief on it just to make sure that people are following the rules. There's plenty of ocean out there for the spear fishermen and for them to go and practice their skills without encroaching on our inshore fads.
The inshore fads installed by the Fisheries Division are commonly placed for local fishermen, but there are also offshore fads that can be used for spearfishing. Recent campaigns from Niue Tourism have encouraged people to visit Niue, but there needs to be some level of education and information sharing with visitors to understand some of the cultural protocols and practices.
I think we all have to take responsibility. The fisheries people, they're more or less the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. But I think initially what needs to be done is for the fisheries to advise all property owners, and most of them do know, that what are the requirements for fishing, for spearfishing. Problem though is that in the latest incidents, not only did the property owner warn the visitors, but also on a couple of occasions they were warned by another member of the Niue Island Fishermen's Association that they were not allowed to fish at the to spearfish at the fad, but they still continued doing it. So what do we do? I mean, in the old days, the old fishermen would have grabbed a paddle and whacked them on the head. But I think we're a little bit more advanced, sophisticated nowadays. I think the time has come to put up some notices, proper notices, not handwritten crayon type, notices, just setting out what you can and cannot do. I mean, this is the last resort of having to notify the visitors. If the visitors are not going to take any notice of what the property owners tell them, and worse still, of what some of the locals tell them, local fishermen tell them, then I think we've got to take this very seriously. Put up the notices and tell people that you're not allowed to do this, and it shouldn't take all that much, just some proper notices.
The organisation has proposed that perhaps village councils or the authorities responsible for monitoring fishing operations may need to put in place bylaws or information boards to curb this issue before it gets out of hand. The Tuapa Uhumotu Church was packed last Friday to witness the ordination of the village's new resident pastor, BCN Viviani, in an all-day occasion that included a feast and entertainment from the Tuapa Ecclesia youth. Reverend Viviani started his theological training at the Tuasea Bible School in the 80s, then continued to Knox Theological College in Dunedin, New Zealand. He was chosen by the Tuapa Ecclesia to replace Reverend Aifuliapu Male, who passed away unexpectedly last year. He had been working with the Niue PIC in Newton, Auckland, ever since graduating from Knox, and was a valuable member of the Newton PIC in various capacities, mostly teaching and mentoring youth in Bible studies and activities, plus working for his Hakupu community. Amongst those at his ordination were a group of pastors from Auckland and Australia who travelled to witness and enjoy a momentous occasion for the Reverend and his young family. Reverend Viviani is the son of Niue's former Premier and the current Hakupu Member of Parliament, Honourable Young Vivian. He is married to Rachel Kaulima. They have a young family of 4 and will be stationed in Tuapa for the duration of his time as pastor, which usually is a 5-year term or more. Management of chemicals was at the forefront of a training workshop held on the island last week. The regional project will be carried out in 14 countries and is supported by the Global Environment Facility Pacific Alliance for Sustainability as part of the POPs Release Reduction Project. The training workshop was held over a course of 4 days, specifically for representatives from different government departments who import or use hazardous chemicals to manage and safely remove these chemicals. The Management Chemical Training Workshop was carried out by a representative from the University of the South Pacific, and we spoke to him last week to find out more about this training.
One aspect of this workshop where we look at what you do when you have to get a chemical in a country. Now, in terms of purchasing it, in terms of storing it, handling it, and using it. Now, once you do those things, how do you go about disposing those chemicals? You just don't throw it in the environment. Now, in most cases, for these hazardous chemicals, you have to pack them up and resend them back to the countries. And that is not just the case for Niue, it is for all the Pacific Island countries.
Niue is the 4th island to receive this training that has been delivered through a number of training modules in hopes of providing better understanding amongst participants who work or handle different types of hazardous chemicals. It also highlights the importance of better management to reduce risks posed.
People have to understand when you are dealing with chemicals, you have to be very, very careful. Now, some of these chemicals, they get absorbed in our bodies and they keep accumulating, and they have very adverse effects such as causing cancer. So when you come in contact with a chemical, or you have to work with a chemical, just be very, very careful with it.
The chemical training workshop ended last week, and it is expected that the capacity building exercise will ensure better management of chemicals. Fisher folk went out to sea in search of nature's bounty as part of Tamagotanga's Marine Day program on Saturday. 40 canoe fishermen registered for the event, and according to the event organizer Ricky Makani, it was a successful day with great support from the fishermen, the village community, but especially sponsors who were able to provide a range of cash prizes from $50 up to $2,000. The winners on the day, the top prize went to Poi Okesene, who was the overall winner for his wahoo. Andre Siohani took the prize for the heaviest tuna. Dimitri Viliamu claimed the prize for the heaviest dog-tooth tuna. And young Floyd Viliamu won a prize for the heaviest overall catch for bottom fish. A great effort from all who took part in the competition and hoping for better conditions and catches at the next competition. This is one of the pre-show day activities before Tamagotonga hosts their village show day this coming Friday. And that concludes tonight's news bulletin. Have a good evening.